Welcome to Valley Politics History Interviews. I'm Terry Christensen. Ron James was mayor of San Jose from 1967 to 1971. He was the city's first directly elected mayor since 1916. Here, for the first time, is our 2018 interview with Mayor James in full. Welcome, Ron James. Thanks for being with us today. So, you're a native son, fourth generation Californian, I think?
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, my great-grandfather came from Cornwall, England in the 1860s. He was a hard rock miner, went to work in the Almaden quicksilver mines here in South San Jose, and my grandfather was born out at the mines, and they came into San Jose in the 1880s and started a little drayage business with horses and wagons. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of how our family business evolved into the trucking and warehousing business. Yeah.
So you grew up here, went to San Jose High.
Went to San Jose High.
And on to Stanford.
Yeah.
And then into the family business, the James Moving Company.
Right.
Right? Then in 1965, you ran for city council, right? What made you leap into politics?
Well, I had been chairman of the City Planning Commission for a couple of years going into that 65 election. So it kind of bothered me that with all of the growth coming in San Jose and Santa Clara and the county doing a lot of land use and zoning, there wasn't any sort of a regional focus. Every city was doing its own thing, and I thought maybe if I got elected to the city council, I could start some interest in approaching planning and land use on a regional basis.
So you ran for council, got elected, no problem?
No problem.
No problem, congratulations. And then 2 years later you ran for mayor, and you were the first directly elected mayor of San Jose in over 50 years. Right. Mayors were chosen by the council before that. In fact, you were, I think, a council-chosen mayor in 1966, and then you ran in 67. What made the city change over to directly elected mayor?
Well, I think the growing population and the voters figured that they'd rather select the political leader of the city than have the council members pass it around every couple of years.
Yeah.
What happened was when I was elected in 65 to the council, they immediately appointed me vice mayor. And then the next year they appointed me mayor. So I was mayor going into that election. You're right, yeah.
Yeah, so that helped.
It helped a lot.
And I believe you won 79% of the vote in that election.
79 or 80%.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. What were campaigns like then?
Campaigns are pretty much the way they always are. You're sort of outlining your vision for the city. You're going around to different organizations looking for endorsements, whether it be homeowner groups or the Chamber of Commerce, Convention Visitor Bureau, the Mercury News. San Jose had a television station in those days, Channel 11, that was active and endorsing. And matter of fact, they set up a live interview and debate, actually, between my opponent and I.
Robert Welch?
Robert Welch, yeah. That was a fun debate. Yeah, it was my first experience in debating publicly and on live television.
You didn't do TV ads?
No.
You didn't do radio ads?
I think some of the radio stations did some ads as part of an endorsement, yeah.
Yeah. Did you do mailing?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. There was a lot of mailing, a lot of meeting with homeowner organizations.
A lot of in-person campaigning, though.
Exactly.
Of course, it was a smaller city then.
It was about half the size it is now.
Yeah. So you're elected mayor in 67. You served to 71. The council changed considerably during your time as mayor. What kinds of changes did you see on the council itself?
Well, I think it was the influence of the incoming population and the voters. There was an interest in a lot of the homeowner positions. We were growing as a city probably at the rate of 20 or 25,000 every year.
Yeah, wow.
And so that kept you on your toes in terms of trying to keep up with residential development, storm sewers, sanitary sewers, fire departments, all of the things that go with a growing city. And so a lot of these homeowner groups wanted to have a say in who was on the council. So that's probably why the council changed in complexion.
Yeah, a little bit of grumbling about the level of service people expected versus the level the city was able to provide
That's right,
at
yeah.
that time, or a lot of grumbling.
Well, the thing was, with all of the growth, we always had the city's voter support because everything had to be bundled up into bond proposals
Yeah.
that you put before the voter, and whether it was streets or highways or whatever, we had to have 66 2/3 vote, and we always got it overwhelmingly. So everybody was in favor of growth, even though it was hard to keep up.
Yeah. So council changed. Virginia Schaefer, for one, represented the homeowners, a relatively conservative voice on a lot of issues.
Right.
Dave Golio, I think, was from the homeowners faction. Walt Hayes got elected in '69,
Right.
and Walt Hayes was an environmentalist. This is just at the time we were all kind of becoming conscious of environmentalism.
Sure.
So that's a big change from the way the council was when you first got on
Yeah.
in '65. It was a more business-oriented, a little bit more conservative council,
Right.
I think.
Yes.
Yeah. But through this time, you worked with a city manager named Dutch Hammond,
Right.
famous city manager, 19 years as San Jose city manager from 1950 to 1969, and was, well, a famously strong city manager. So I guess one question for you is, who was really running, who was leading? Was it you as directly elected mayor, or was it
Well, that
still
changed when
Dutch
I got
Hammond?
elected.
Oh,
That
I see.
changed when I got elected. That was the whole object of the directly elected mayor. But Dutch was a very good city leader, but he was also a political leader because of a unique feature in our city charter where every 2 years he was on the ballot for a vote of confidence.
Yeah, this is unheard of in city manager systems elsewhere.
But because of that, and because of the overwhelming support he got every year, he was really the political leader. The council members were, they were part-time. They couldn't spend the time at City Hall. And Dutch was there running the ship, and he did a good job for 19 years, as you say. Most city managers, by the way, their average tenure is like 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
So he was pretty successful.
Yes,
he was a good competitor. That's what I liked about
That's
him.
extraordinary. He was a politician, really, as
He
well
had,
as
he had to be.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
That changed. See, that changed with that 1967 election.
yeah,
And so you've seen the mayor's position evolve through the last 50 years to where it is today.
so is that shift to more mayoral leadership part of what led Dutch Hammond to resign in '69?
No, that was his decision. That was his decision. And fortunately, he didn't leave the area. He stayed around and helped us with our bicentennial when we celebrated the nation's bicentennial in 76 and then the city's bicentennial in 77. So he was chairman of that whole bicentennial program.
But the council was changing, and there was more opposition to him on the council, and then of course you as a leader, as an elected mayor. So it probably wasn't quite as comfortable for him being city manager as it had been for most of his tenure.
Well, I don't know. That could be, but he never expressed it to me.
Yeah.
But he'd been 19 years in the saddle, and he did a good job.
Yeah. Anybody has a right to retire at that point. While he was manager, during those 19 years, and during your first years on the council, San Jose was notorious for rapid growth, and remember the Stanford study called San Jose Sprawling City, urban sprawl. There was a lot of criticism of the way San Jose grew at that time. In retrospect, do you think it could have been done any other way?
No.
No.
No, some city had to be the dominant city. I mentioned competition a minute ago. People don't realize the competition between cities for a tax base. And whether you're talking about Santa Clara, who had an excellent city manager by the name of Don von Racefield,
Who was there for, I think, 24 years.
he was a good competitor too. But you had Milpitas, you had Campbell, and you had the county in those days had a great deal of land that was still unincorporated, and the county had a full-fledged planning department with planning commissioners, planning, the Board of Supervisors and a planning department, and they were issuing zoning and land use on unincorporated parts of the area that were going to eventually annex into the city. And it was my concern that a lot of times their zoning decisions weren't going to be compatible with San Jose's general plan. So we started a joint city-county planning committee with 2 members of the Board of Supervisors, 2 members of the County Planning Commission, 2 members of the City Planning Commission, and 2 council members, plus the staff, so that we could talk about the surrounding areas that the county was looking at to zone, and they would get requests for zoning and sometimes grant it. And geez, if it wasn't compatible with our general plan, eventually we'd annex something that didn't really fit. So that was a problem we were trying to solve in the land use and zoning area.
We still have a big difference between jobs and housing. So some of these other communities, like Santa Clara especially, Cupertino, seem to have done better with employment. Could San Jose have done a better job of that in the 60s?
We probably could have, and there again, that goes back to zoning, but they were very aggressive, and my hat's off to them. But we ended up...
Those other cities.
Yes,
yeah.
we ended up with a lot of residential growth, which is costly, expensive for the city to accommodate, but nevertheless, it kept coming, and we kept trying to handle it, and we were able to do it. We had to build in those days 280, Highway 85, and Highway 87, and we had freeway agreements with Ronald Reagan and the state of California, where the city would acquire the land, but the state's responsibility was to build the freeways. So we had to go out and acquire land for 280, 85, and 87 freeways, and then wait for the state to build the freeways, which sometimes took a long time.
Yeah.
But that's just one facet of it. We also were expanding our airports. We were rapidly, and we were expanding our wastewater treatment plant, which is a critical feature in any growth. We caught a break, I'll have to admit, because the canneries that were paying a substantial part of the expansion of our wastewater treatment plant eventually left the area. And when they left the area, they left us with the increased capacity that they had paid for. They had to move over to the valley where the fruit and the vegetables were, because the food processing industry in the Santa Clara Valley just went away.
Yeah.
And then another part of the infrastructure, it was clearing the area in the downtown. I mean, we had a lot of buildings that were built here in the 1880s and the 1890s, and then in the early 1900s. And a lot of them had to be condemned for various reasons and had to be acquired through redevelopment process. The land had to be cleared so you could see the activity we've got growing in downtown today. So that all had to be done, and we had to try to protect. We started the protection of the Guadalupe River Park in those days because we were dealing with the Army Corps of Engineers, and they think in terms of a concrete culvert through downtown San Jose. And we wanted a river park that was natural, so we had to work with the county and the Army Corps of Engineers to keep that river park, precious river park, while we were rebuilding the whole downtown. So it was a lot of things going on. I tried also to get City Hall relocated downtown during those years.
Yeah.
The City Hall was originally downtown,
Yeah.
of course, and then moved out in the 40s or 50s out to near the county building complex. And we had all this action starting in downtown, and I thought that if we could, and we talked to the County Board of Supervisors about purchasing San Jose City Hall, because it's located right next to the county building. And we were going to take the money from that purchase and go downtown and build a city hall right across from the Center for the Performing Arts on Almaden Boulevard, where the Civic Auditorium is located. And the disappointment comes when, because it was a physical asset of the city, it required a voter approval. And when we put that on the ballot, I think a combination of things, maybe because we had moved out there just a few years earlier, a lot of people's mind, but the ballot wording was, shall the City Hall remain in its current location? And here we were running around promoting, yes, move the City Hall, yes, move the City Hall downtown, And to this day, I think a lot of people went into the ballot and voted yes, thinking they were moving San Jose down. But anyway, it all worked out because City Hall came back downtown anyway.
Eventually.
But it could have happened years ago.
Yeah, too bad, too bad. So, 1971, you decided not to run for a second term of office. Norm Mineta succeeded you.
Right.
Why did you decide not to run again?
Well, back to our family business, it was growing. My father was getting stretched pretty thin. We had opened several locations in Southern California. He was spending a lot of time down there. And I just felt that he needed me back in the business. And so I walked away from City Hall, in 1971.
1973, we had a vacancy for city manager.
Yes.
Norm Mineta was the mayor. He was kind of your protege because you helped get him appointed to the council. When you were elected mayor, he filled the vacant seat that you had occupied. But Norm and the council picked somebody from outside. What do you think happened there? Why not you?
Well, first of all, I just left City Hall a few years earlier.
A couple of years.
And I don't know that I was, you say maybe I was seriously considered. I don't know that. I never talked with Norm about it, frankly. It was sort of flattering, I guess, that several members of the council thought that I would be a good city manager, but they picked Ted Tedesco, who I had worked with later at the Chamber of Commerce. We were talking economic development, convention visitor bureau build-up, that sort of thing. So I worked with Ted over the years, and he was a good professional city manager. I think they made the right pick.
So final question. You were the mayor, first directly elected mayor. A lot of people are talking about shifting San Jose from a council manager form of government with a mayor to a strong mayor form of government. What do you think about that idea, strong mayor form of government for the city of San Jose?
As long as you have the right mayor.
Well, that's the tricky part.
It could work. It's an increased responsibility. The mayor now has some budget say-so, which has evolved, and the whole concept of the mayor has evolved from when I was elected 50 years ago until today, and I think it's a natural evolution. It'll probably come as the city grows. More and more people will come into San Jose that have come from a city where they experienced a strong mayor form of government, and they may feel more comfortable with it. Yeah.
People do look to mayors for leaders.
Sure.
Leadership. And you were one of our leaders. So, Ron James, thanks very much for being with us today.
Thank
you. Appreciate it. For other interviews with the leaders and activists who shaped the history of San Jose and Santa Clara County, look for the Valley Politics History interviews on YouTube.